have a question for you. What is your financial philosophy and why is it important? I'm going to ask you again. What is your financial philosophy and why is it important? In other words, what are your beliefs about money and where did those beliefs come from? The foundation of my financial philosophy and my beliefs about money comes from my Christian worldview.
Island Style on your TV. And now, Urban and Island Style. It's time for Urban and Island Style. Auntie Island Style. Urban and Island Style. Urban and Island Style. Get ready. Auntie time. Island Style. Urban and Island Style. Auntie Island Style. Urban and Island Style. Urban and Island Style. Popping on the TV, Urban Island Style. Boy, la 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 da. At the time, boy, la 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 da. At the time, wicked and wild. Popping on your TV, Urban Island Style. Urban and Island Style. Wicked and wild. Urban and Island Style. Urban Island Style. Urban and Island Style. Wicked and wild. Popping on the TV, Urban Island Style. Urban and Island Style. Urban and Island Style. Urban and Island Style. Urban Island Style. Urban and Island Style. Urban and Island.
She who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadows of the Almighty. I will say to the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress. My God, in Him I will trust. Surely He shall deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the perilous pestilence. He shall cover you with feathers, and under His wings you shall take refuge. His truth shall be your shield and buckler. You shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor of the arrow that flies by day, nor of the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor of the destruction that lays waste at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near you. Only with your eyes shall you look and see the reward of the wicked, because you have made the Lord, who is my refuge, even the Most High, your dwelling place. No evil shall befall you, nor shall any plague come near your dwelling. For He shall give His angels charge over you to keep you in all your ways. In their hands they shall bear you up, lest you dash your foot against a stone. You shall tread upon the lion and the cobra, the young lion and the serpent you shall trample underfoot. Because she has set her love upon me, therefore I will deliver her. I will set her on high, because she has known my name. She shall call upon me, and I will answer her. I will be with her in trouble. I will deliver her and honor her. With long life, I will satisfy her and show her my salvation. Mahalo for joining us for a new episode of Urban and Island Style, the show with your host, Auntie Taz. Every episode, I interview transplants to Maui that are doing something different and creative for the island, covering topics from urban culture, hair, fashion, island activities, nightlife, Hawaii history, business concepts, and more. However, today we're going to do things a little different. This is a Student of Wealth episode, and we have a special guest for you. In our Student of Wealth series, we investigate and illuminate financial education topics to point you towards personal growth opportunities that can help people live their dreams, design your own destiny, and unleash your creative powers. Financial literacy is within your reach. Do you want it? If you want it, Let's get it. If you're just now joining us, my birth name is Aviella. In Hebrew, Aviella means God is my father. Through my life's experience, I have developed a Christian worldview, and each day I grow stronger in my relationship and connection with my Father. Did you know that Christianity is God's way to reach man? Religion is man's way to reach God. I am a child of God. I am a wife. I am a daughter. I'm a financial educator. I'm a beauty consultant. I'm a craft fair vendor booth pro, and I am a student of wealth. Today, we're going to talk about behaviors that produce financial wellness and health wellness in order to create total wellness. Earlier in the show, I asked you a question. What is your financial philosophy and why is it important? The foundation of my philosophy about money is married to my Christian worldview. So what is psychology? Psychology, by definition, is the scientific study of the mind and behavior. Behavior is the way in which one acts or conducts oneself, especially towards others. Chris Longworth, the money professor, is back in the studio today to discuss the mental and emotional characteristics of total wellness. Financial psychology, put simply, is the study of your beliefs about money that influence financial spending and behaviors. Your financial philosophy is your personal view of how you look at your financial situation and spending habits. It is the foundation of all financial decisions. Our relationship with money involves our feelings, emotions, behavior, and thoughts, which are influenced by the actual, imagined, or implied outside influences. Let's plant some seed. Have you ever heard of the parable of the talents? Matthew 25:14 through 30 tells of a master who was leaving his house to travel, and before leaving entrusted 3 of his servants with his property. According to the abilities of each servant, one person received 5 talents, the second had received 2 talents, and the third received only 1 talent. What was the financial psychology and philosophy of each of these? Could the one who received 5 talents believe he was responsible and a leader? The one with 2 talents, could he have been creative and a visionary? The one with 1 talent, could he have been fearful but have potential? Could they have been thinking, who can help me? How can I do this? What do I do? The one with 5 talents, who is very visual, probably thought about who could help him. His behavior allowed him to recruit resources. the one with 2 talents that was analytical may have thought, how can I do this? And his behavior would have him to do it himself. But the one with 1 talent, his mindset may have been, I don't know how to do this. So his behavior said, I'm not doing it at all. A person's financial psychology and philosophy is very important when it comes to planning. So in the studio today, we have the money professor, Chris Longworth. And I would like to talk to you, Chris, about how financial psychology for financial planning works together.
Aloha, Taz, and it's great to be with you again, and aloha to everyone watching. That's a great question, and there's the difference between the philosophy of how we think about our money and the psychology of the overall topic. This is where people really stumble. This is where they really find a difficult to find footing. They find it difficult to apply to their daily life. And it's only through a lack of knowledge and understanding that allows this difficulty to exist. We find that as we educate people and as they start to apply that education in the application of what they learn, that's where they develop a better philosophy of their own personal situation. Now they can take the psychology of the topic and apply it to their personal life, and that's the philosophy part, where now you apply that directly to yourself and your life in direct application. So
sure.
it's the action steps that we have to take after we learn something. That's really what makes all the difference in how you can actually see the results and actually apply it and try to get better results with your money.
Well, that's great. Thank you for sharing that with us, Chris. It's very well said. So in the illustration with the 5 talents,
yeah.
I'm just curious,
it's a great story.
What do you think about that parable as it relates to the actions taken by the 2 of the servants who was able to double the talents that they received versus the 1 servant who hid his talent and did nothing with it?
It's a great example to show that the one that had the most responsibility obviously had the knowledge base to draw from and then immediately start to develop a psychology in general and developed a philosophy of how to apply that. And that's where, knowing that he could do it, was never a question, could it be done? He knew he could do it. He went to find resources immediately to get it done. So that's the part of taking action without hesitation, using the basic knowledge that you have. The second one had some knowledge, enough to know that he needed to find help. Enough to know that he didn't know what he needed to know, and he had to go recruit those resources so that he could then complete his task. The last one is a perfect example of a lack of knowledge, which leads to fear, which, remembering, fear is, I teach about this often, the acronym of fear, F-E-A-R, false evidence appearing real. It's the greatest paralyzer on the planet, and that's what happened to number 3. Had no confidence in his ability, had no knowledge to draw from, decided that I'm not going to do anything because I don't want to make a mistake, so I'm not going to do anything. And that's the worst possible scenario, because he never learned anything beyond what he didn't know, and he never took a chance, never took action to develop knowledge. So he stayed right where he was, and as the parable shows, that was the worst of situation. He didn't get anything out of it. Right?
That's right, and he was in trouble too. When
absolutely,
he was disappointed.
You could lose your
results.
job. You could lose a lot of things. So you lose a lot of abilities when you don't understand how money works, and you hesitate when you shouldn't, or you jump when you should hesitate. That what happened. I mean, that's typically we find in a lack of knowledge situation. So yeah, it's a great story.
Yeah, I love that. So Chris, can you give some examples of positive psychology and what that would look like, incorporating some of your own real world experience?
I love that question. That's a great question. And the positive psychology piece is the beginning of the foundation that you have to gain more knowledge. First, we have to acknowledge that we don't know what we need to know. And then the journey that we take to gain that knowledge and learn some basic foundational things so that now we can make decisions based on truth and facts, not hype and fiction. And it's the hype and fiction that people will try to work into their psychology, and no, it really doesn't work. It has to be rooted in truth and facts, because that's the only way that you can develop a philosophy that you can actually apply. So within that, the basic foundation of all financial education is learning just some basic things like budgeting. A budget is the #1 way that you can strengthen your financial position from day one. And I mean literally, Taz, within a few minutes, you can gain confidence by simply working a simple budget and seeing the power that it represents in how you can control your money and what you actually get to do with it.
Sure.
And what I mean by that is, and again, why the philosophy is so important. Everyone has money at some kind or some amount. What they do with it is where we find that it's really interesting. I love to study this topic, and the psychology of money really lends us to look at the philosophy that people have about it, and that philosophy, or more importantly, the lack of, is what happens. If you have no philosophy of your money, you are spending without control. You have no idea where your money's going.
Yep.
You have no idea where it's been. You have no idea what's coming next. You just spend it as you have it. It's the most dangerous place to be, because you have no guidance. You have no vision for other than today. And as we all know, we have to look down the road. We have to be able to have that longer view vision of our need for money. And that gives us the ability to then plan carefully, plan smartly, develop a really keen action steps that one can take that will give you a known result. That's where you'll find your philosophy becoming stronger and actually being able to put it to action. So it all starts with some basic foundational knowledge, and I always like to start with the budget. Teach people how to make a budget, teach people the value of what a budget represents, how important it is, and how strong it can make you financially just by writing things down. It's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I love that, because when I think of budgeting, some things that I use in my own life is what I like to call the 4 laws of wealth. The first law would be, of course, the law of earning.
Yeah,
You must
exactly.
earn.
You must.
It's important.
It is.
But next, as you're saying, is the law of spending. Where does that money go that you've earned?
Tracking. It's tracking every dollar that comes in.
Right.
Just as in any other enterprise that you take on, there's a way to measure performance. We write things down. We go back, we look, we measure, we do things, we measure again, and we adjust. It's what I call EMAR. Right?
EMAR.
Engage, measure, adjust, and re-engage. That way, engage, measure, adjust, and re-engage.
EMAR.
That way you get to take action, measure that action, see what it produced, and if it's not what you want, you adjust and then do it again.
Sure.
And now you get on a track of philosophy that will allow you to take actionable steps that you can work towards a known goal that you have. So you create the goal off on the horizon, and now we build a roadmap to take steps to get us there. That really is the strongest thing that you could do for oneself, financially and any otherwise. And that roadmap works in many, many different ways. So
I love that's a great roadmap, and that leads like right into the third law. Is the law of saving.
Yeah.
You can't save anything, right, if you haven't earned anything.
Right. And again, if you have no budget, you have no idea where the money's going. You have no idea how much you can save.
Yeah,
so
you can't reevaluate if you don't know. You have to do the first evaluation.
Exactly right.
But then getting into like that last law, of course, which really helps generate wealth, is the law of investing.
Yes.
But you can't invest what you don't save.
That's right.
And you can't save what you don't earn.
That's right.
But one thing you must do is spend no matter what.
That's a fact.
So what are you going to spend it on? Can we talk about the psychology and even philosophy around what a wealth-minded person would look to spend money on?
Great question, Taz. And again, it's about the goal you have in mind. All successful people with money, all wealthy people have a goal in mind that they start with. They have to have that philosophy of what do they want to see happen. They have to have that. On top of that, now you have to have the ability within yourself to be disciplined enough to build a roadmap and then hold yourself accountable to take action steps so that you can actually produce this thing that you're wanting to see.
Absolutely.
What I like to tell folks is to make it easy and to make it really kind of fun, but it really makes it poignant and to the point. If you don't write these things down, it's just a thought. Thoughts are wonderful. Dreams are fantastic because that's where everything starts. But it only comes to life when you actually take pencil to paper and write it out, then put it on a calendar. And now you're holding yourself accountable to this thing you've created. This list you now have must be done. You must check off each box as you go through. You now hold yourself accountable by writing it down and putting it on a calendar. Now we have action steps that we can take that'll bring us to a known place. And that's where you'll find financial strength, financial wellness, and financial success.
I love that. And I myself am on the road to
You are.
that
You're a great student.
target. Oh my gosh.
Taz, you're the best student out there because you are actually putting to motion what you're learning. You're taking action based on the knowledge you gain, and it's working for you. And that's what I love to point at. I use you quite a bit when I talk about financial success, and because it works.
Yes.
So well done.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well done.
And thank you for everything that you're teaching me, that you taught me.
My pleasure.
And everything that will come in the future.
It's my pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure. It's my passion is to make sure that everyone has enough knowledge to be able to make knowledgeable decisions, not guesses. Remembering that we're in a predatory environment when it comes to money.
Sure.
You can't guess in this world. If you guess more than 50% of the time, it's the wrong guess. So why chance that? Why take those odds? Get a little bit of basic foundation underneath you. Learn the value of a budget and how critical it can be, how simple it is. Apply it daily and grow from there. And it's very easy to watch people acquire wealth. And if you have enough time yet in front of you, you can become very wealthy just by following some very good spending habits. And like I always talk about, and what is my famous quote, debt is the greatest killer of wealth in America.
Yep.
So the spending habits really do become the critical part, whether you're going to be able to save money or not. And you asked me a question earlier about what would be the mindset of a real good, successful person with money.
Yes.
And it's not living outside their means. It's totally focused on how much they have and making every penny count towards certain things. And what I mean by that is there is a philosophy of savings.
Yes.
The 50-30-20 rule, 50-30-20. 50% of your income goes to life maintenance, your quality of life, paying your bills, and feeding yourself. 30% is going to go to the hard things of life that you just simply can't get away from. 20% is going to be saving for the future. That is the most important part. That's the piece that people forget about, is that future need for money.
Yes.
So budgeting creates the opportunity for you to sit down and really put together a well done roadmap of where your money's going to go, where does it have to go, where do you want it to go, and where does it really need to go.
Absolutely.
And now you have control. So the budget gives you not only power, it gives you control.
Sure.
It not only gives you knowledge, it gives you the ability to actually direct where your money's going.
I love that. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's the only way that, I mean, again, it's the basic foundational tool that everyone should have. A budget is the greatest thing that one can learn how to work and stay and follow. And as you make more money, you adjust your budget accordingly. And if you're not making enough money, that's why the budget becomes so critical, because you have to have quality of life. You have to pay the bills, you got to eat, you got to have some basic insurances around you. The budget will allow that to happen, and then you get to see where your money's going. What I always like to remember, the coffee every day.
Yeah.
If you buy a coffee every day, that's $200 every month. How about the subscriptions you forgot about? The online subscriptions that maybe you have forgot about, not using, or worse yet, found this out with a client. She had 3 subscriptions to the same service, but she had different emails, and each time she got a new email, she had to go re-sign, and it never canceled the old one.
Duplicates. Oh my gosh.
It added up to over $1,000 a month for this one individual. That's a lot of quality of life. That's a lot of ability to save into your future.
Sure.
A budget is the most valuable tool that somebody could learn how to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So one thing that I'm learning, or I would say it this way, one misunderstanding that I would like to address, if we may.
Sure.
I believe a lot of people think wealth is about the things that you can see. I would submit to you and others that wealth is actually about the things that you don't see.
I agree.
It's about the item that you didn't buy. It's about the time that you don't have to spend going after anything that requires you to use money that you could be saving and taking advantage of the laws of compounding interest. Because in that parable, the end of it, as I said, shows that two of those servants actually doubled their money.
Right.
And so knowing the financial principles and strategies and formulas, knowing that they even have those is one thing, but there's a formula called the rule of 72, right?
Yes.
And that is just a, mental math shortcut.
It is.
That shows people how long it would take to double your money.
Exactly
so
right.
is it possible that even back in the time of this parable that the one with 5 talents knew about the rule of 72? And if so, can you tell us what that is?
That's a great question. And I would say that yes, they knew the value of compounding growth. That's what they knew. Compounding growth was the most powerful thing at the time, and it still is today.
Yes.
We talk about money. Compounded growth is the most powerful thing you can get your money to do. It is far better than any investment in the stock market. It is far better than any type of stock or mutual fund that one could buy. It's far better than any commodity or any other tradable item. Compounding interest growth is simply mathematically superior, and it's simple math. And so what is that math? The math is easy. You take the number 72 and you divide that by your interest that you're earning. So interest earned divided by 72, that will tell you how many years to double your money. So if you're earning 7% interest, your money is doubling every 10 years. If you can get to where you're earning 9% interest, your money's doubling every 8 years. So that factor is how people can really compound grow. And once that compound growth happens, it's easy to remember that 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8, 8 becomes 16. That's compounding growth.
32
right?
becomes 64,
And
128, and on and on.
Well, and the best way that we demonstrate that is probably the most unrealistic way, which you take a penny and you double a penny every day.
Yeah.
Within
I'll
30
sign
days,
up
you
for
have over $10 million.
Yes.
So that's the power of compounding growth, right?
Now let's talk about how that power can work against you, because you've illustrated this wonderful tool that we can use when doing our budget, especially when we get to the point when we're forecasting a year out or long term. What happens when we apply that to debt? Like the credit card bill, where the actual math problem now is 72 divided by a 24% interest rate, which means in 3 years, whatever we have as a balance on that credret card,
It's
doubles.
growing faster than your ability to pay it down. And currently the statistic is overwhelming. Once again, America is in a debt crisis. Where over $3.5 trillion in credit card debt alone. What that simply means, and this is something I teach about quite a lot and quite sternly, as a matter of fact, debt is the worst thing that one can possess for one reason alone. Even if you go out and buy it at a 50% bargain and you pay it off on time, meaning you're making your minimum payments, it'll take you 28 years to pay that off, and you will pay 16 times. 16 times its value. No bargain. There's no bargain at all.
I'm not doing that.
Debt there's only 2 types of debt that you'll ever get me to endorse. One is a mortgage, because I don't know too many people that got $500,000 laying around to go drop down. So a mortgage is okay debt. Possibly a car, because without the ability to transport yourself, you have no ability to earn money. So a car would be the only other debt that I would endorse someone, because you have the ability to earn far more than the debt and pay it off much quicker, so you can control that cost.
Yes.
But outside of that, you would be hard-pressed to find me endorsing any kind of debt, just for the simple fact that if you use a credit card, you are adding cost to whatever you're purchasing, and not by a little, by a lot. So if you run that credit card out, that purchase, run it out, make minimum payments all the way to the very end, it is literally 16 times more than just paying cash.
Wow. So let me now play the bank loan lender's advocate. So I want to start a business and I don't have business startup funds. If I understand you correctly, you're telling me that it's not, you would not endorse the idea of taking out a business loan, borrowing money in order to start a business. Is that correct, or did I misunderstand you?
No, you're right on the money, with one exception. Depends on how much the loan is, and it depends on what type of business we're talking about. There are some circumstances where short-term money is okay. Right? If we need to kickstart something, well, there's lots of ways to earn. You can go on to Kickstarter and you can petition folks to invest in you and get money that way.
Okay.
And then that allows you to have capital to either start or enhance a business or grow beyond where you currently are. That's one way to do it. Small Business Administration is another way that you can go and apply for a loan. It's a very low interest loan, and this is, again, very friendly money that you can utilize. And it's not difficult, or it's not easy to get. It's difficult to qualify for because of, and this is what people come to me a lot and ask me this question: why is it so hard to get a loan from SBA? Well, here's the statistics they're looking at is this: 85% of new businesses will fail within the first 3 years. Out of the 15% that remain, half of them, 7.5%, will fail in the next 2 years. So before year 5, we only have 7.5% left.
92.5%.
In the next 5 years, that 7.5%, half of them will go away.
Oh, wow.
And in year 10, you literally have less than 4% business survival rate. That's the current statistics. If I'm a lender, I have to watch again, if I'm lending money to make money, it doesn't make sense to lend money to lose money, does it?
Sure.
Not going to live long. So this is where it's very difficult to qualify for those kinds of loans, because of the statistic that most businesses will fail because they are not well thought out. They do not have a good philosophy for their money. They have no financial plan written out. They're just winging it. And statistics shows that that is not the way to do it. So if you're going to be starting a new business, be thoughtful. Get some help. Get a coach. Get someone who can help you outline a plan, a business plan. Like when you were starting, what was the first thing that we talked about? Get a business plan together, write it down, and be detailed.
Yes.
That's your roadmap.
Yes.
That's your philosophy
Yes.
of how you're going to do what you want to do. So you can apply it in different ways, but the idea is the same. You must have a philosophy of your money to start with. You must be able to verbalize it, and not only that, but litterize it, meaning literally write it down and put it into form. Put it onto a calendar,
Yes.
and now you have an accountable thing that you can hold yourself to, and that creates the action steps that really create success.
I love that. And I don't want to miss, too, if you are someone who's been doing your budgeting, then that business falls in that investment portion, because you can use business as an investment. So if you're earning money and you're spending well, as far as wisely, which creates savings, and you've got money put away for investment, you can use those funds also to attract more funds.
Taz, the idea is that if you are operating a business, the 50-30-20 rule has to be applied, where part of that dollars is going to be put away for future growth and future savings and future expansion. You must do that.
Yes.
If you don't, it's very difficult to get there, and again, most businesses will fail before they ever get to that point. So if you have that really clean philosophical view and you have a well written out business plan with a well written out budget, it makes that success so much easier to follow. In fact, I'll go this far and say that all successful businesses that I work with, and I work with quite a few large ones, they all have a very strict philosophy and a very strict budget that they work by. There's your proof.
So I love that. I think you've done a great job of illustrating the importance of psychology and philosophy when it comes to financial wellness.
It's important.
I'd like to turn a corner and ask you about health wellness, because in order to get to total wellness,
Yes.
we must talk about health wellness.
We must.
So my first question is, when I say health wellness, what does that mean to you?
Taz, this is another topic that I'm very passionate about, and I love that you bring this up. I actually did a lecture series with my doctor before COVID. We started an online lecture series. She's about health and wellness. I am about financial wellness. And when you put the two together, you have total wellness. And there are great data metrics that we can look at, statistics to show how the two things are synergistic. They really do work together. When you have a healthy mental image of your financial world and you are not concerned and worry, you are much healthier as an individual, because it's the stress that kills us.
Yes.
It's the stress that makes us ill.
Yes.
And that is documented and really trackable when we look at that data metric. So it's so important to make sure that your health and wellness and your financial wellness really do come together to create total wellness.
I love it. Thank you for that. Would you be able to give us some examples of strategies or tools that are available that are solutions to health wellness within financial wellness? Like, are there any risk management tools available for health?
It goes, I love this question, because again, it all boils down to education. What's the number one thing that causes stress within the human? Fear.
Fear.
What causes fear? Lack of knowledge. Remember, it's an acronym. False evidence appearing real. If you don't have knowledge of something, it's easy to be fearful of it. If I have knowledge of something, there's certainly nothing to be afraid of, because I have knowledge, I have command, right? I can make pointed decisions, not guesses.
Yes.
And when I make decisions as opposed to guessing, I'm in control. I have a much better confidence view of myself. That confidence within yourself also breeds healthy wellness within oneself. So putting the two together, the budget would be the most beneficial thing you could do to start to create wellness within yourself. Understand where your money, where it comes from and where it goes in as much detail as possible. Now you have control over what's happening. And if you don't like what's happening, guess what, Taz? You get to change it.
That's right.
You get to switch those. Let's not put those dollars there. Let's put them over here. And that control is where you'll find a lot of relief from the fear, because it's no longer fearful. I have knowledge now, so I get to choose what I'm doing as opposed to guess and hope and pray across everything I got, and that doesn't help most of the time. But it's the difference of just having that confidence of choice versus the fear of making a guess. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
When it comes to managing risk, because the thing about wealth, it definitely involves responsibility. With responsibility comes risk, and with risk comes rewards.
Totally.
So any mindful person who knows that they're on a track to take risk might want to consider risk management. So I'm just curious, are there any financial tools available that are solutions for health risk management?
I would say that
long-term, short-term.
there's a few different applications that I've seen of recent last couple of years of ways to track your financial life. Basically, you're creating a budget and you're able to follow that budget. That is the greatest thing that you can do to really understand what's happening. Within that, what's happening is where you're going to find your peace of mind. The peace of mind is what's going to make you feel better. Because if you have questions here that are unanswered, you're disturbed inside. You're not peaceful, right? Learning how to track using whatever means necessary, right? Either the old school budget where you write it down on a piece of paper, using technology, a budgeting app that helps me stay on track and then track all of my spending. That's really what's going to give you the edge to then be able to have enough money to go and enhance your health and wellness. Maybe it'll give you more money to have an extra treatment. I love acupuncture. It's not cheap and it's not part of any really insurance. So I have to earn that myself to go get that for myself. So it's part of my financial wellness plan is to have enough money to keep my health and wellness in performance. Does that make sense? So the two really work together.
Okay.
And if you have a really good budget, it allows you to have that extra money to go do these things to keep yourself healthy.
I got it. So all roads lead back
to the budget.
It
really
and I
does.
just really wanted to, I know I asked the same question in a different way, but I really want to illustrate that if someone will take on the philosophy and psychology of a person who understands the value of a budget and also is wise enough to apply the concepts that help build a budget in order to get them the result that they want, then they're more than halfway there.
Exactly right.
They're more than
exactly
halfway
right.
there.
The rest of the way is taking the actual physical steps to then follow through with what you have started. And so it all works together, you know, it's synergistic. I love it.
So I would like to delve into kind of the skill of proper financial decision making, as well as how to set up systems and processes that can help manage these activities successfully.
So money management as a skill does require some physical motion. Right? It's just not something you think about. You actually have to have the skill to be able to understand what a checking account is, what a savings account is, what a retirement savings account is, what our emergency fund is for, all these different things, and then be able to direct money into each one of those as needed. That really is going to be the physical act that one can take that will give them that start of a foundation. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
It does. What are some of the problems or challenges that people should be aware of, or at least consider when it comes to making appropriate financial decisions for the future?
That's the question.
For right now.
Yeah, no, that's the question, Taz. And this is, again, where we live in a predatory environment. So first off, we have to start with the premise we're in a predatory environment of financial world. It is a predatory marketplace. So people with money are prey to those who want your money. And you have to think of it in those terms. I am all the time, every week, we get requests to analyze something that somebody has received in an email or in the mail or got a phone call and somebody wanting money from them for some reason. And 99.99% of the time, it is a scam, it is a fraud, it is not to even be paid attention to. That is prevalent only for the simple reason is that you have to remember, Taz, out here in the hands of America, there is still $7 trillion in cash. That's a number big enough that people can't even think about it. $7 trillion in cash. Don't you think for 1 minute that the predators want that, and they do. And they will come up with every elaborate scam or scheme they can find to try to lure that money away from you. You have to be hyper vigilant about checking things out. Don't ever give anyone any information over the phone or over the internet, ever. If somebody calls you out of the blue, it's a scam.
Yes.
Because no one's going to call you. If these things present themselves as a can't lose, got to have it situation, must do it now, those are the clues that you want to stay away from, because that's the thing that they're playing on is your emotion. They're trying to get you emotionally charged to make a decision based on emotion, not fact, and that's where things go wrong. So you got to really take a look at it from that logical, remove your emotion from your money sense, right? Get your emotion out of this thing, and now it's a tool to be used like any other tool that you have. And if you look at it from that standpoint, that is what will give you the greatest opportunity to take control and not fall prey to the marketplace.
Sure.
Right?
So
ask questions.
A good system involves awareness.
Absolutely. Education. Asking questions and having a resource to bounce it off of. Have somebody that is knowledgeable, more knowledgeable than you. Have somebody that can actually assist you in making that decision before you ever make it.
Yeah, I was just about to say, as a part of my system, I believe it's very important to have financial advisors and counselors and things of that nature. Someone to help me figure out what I don't know, because what I don't know until I get to know it, right?
True, and that's the famous quote, right? You don't know what you don't know until you find it out, right?
That's right.
The real problem here is, again, it's a predatory marketplace. You really have to be able to seek out the right type of advisor and advice. And so there again, if somebody is talking to you about doing something with haste because it's a one-time deal, you got to do it now, put the binders on, step back, stop, because generally something bad about to happen in that environment. There's never going to be a rush ever in the real world of planning. There's never a rush unless it's a real emergency, but typically no. We plan thoughtfully, and it's a methodical process.
Yes.
And so there again, it's something that everyone should know what the process entails so that you can recognize the proper process when you run into it, but more importantly, you'll recognize you'll recognize the scam right away.
Sure.
Right? Just a little bit of knowledge makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, I get those calls all the time. You've been pre-approved for a $500,000 line of credit. I'm just like, click. So when I'm putting the plans together for my financials, I'm thinking about things like income replacement. I'm thinking about income protection. I'm thinking about income distribution.
Taz, and those are the three hot topics that people need to be thinking about. When we talk about financial planning, it's a topic that is pretty broad, and it can encompass many different avenues. So depending upon, that's why I say you have to have that specific philosophy of what is your idea, what do you want to see happen, and you can formulate a plan to literally tailor-make that idea to come to life. You just have to use the proper planning methods, the proper financial tools, and have somebody who can help you achieve that goal. And it literally is the process of thought, planning first, pencil to paper, write it out, build an action step that you can take, and now you have a known result when you're done.
You know what? I think oftentimes people try to put a plan together to go after the money that they don't have, money that they don't need, at the expense of the money that they do have, and the expense of the money that they do need.
See, what you're talking about, Tad, is greed, and the greed factor comes in, and all of a sudden an opportunity that really might not be that great presents itself, but you are in the greed mode, so you go after it without really thinking much or researching much, and all of a sudden it's a disaster. You've lost everything. And that happens more often than not. That's literally 85% of investments. It's gone. And you have no control over it because you didn't research it out enough. You didn't have a plan of action. There was no recovery plan. There was no stoppage. It was all or nothing. And that is never going to be a good plan. You got to have measured steps that if something starts to go wrong, you can stop it before it's a disaster and you lose everything. Right? Here's a statistic that I must bring to light. Right now, currently, it's estimated about 70% of America, 70%, is one bad decision away from financial ruin.
Oh my gosh.
Not a financial problem, financial ruin. So one. That means that's not two. You don't get a redo. You make one bad decision and it's all over. You're done. That's scary.
Yeah.
And that is where we look at and say people are living on the edge too much. They're not paying attention to what they're spending. They're chasing something they shouldn't be chasing. And I'll be the first one to say that you must, if you want to have any success about your money, you must learn to live within your means. If you want more, you have to do more to earn more. Like you said in the beginning, earnings is the main thing.
Yes.
You have to have earnings in your life. It's not, nothing in this world is free, right? And I teach everyone an acronym for that. So for those of you listening right now, you're going to love this acronym. It's 2 words. TIN Stoffel, T-I-N, second word Stoffel, S-T-A-A-F-L, simply is an acronym for...
I know what it is. There's no such thing
as a free lunch. So there is no such thing as a free lunch. Everything has a cost in this world. The free lunch somebody's paying for. So nothing's free in this world. You have to have that mentality. You have to have that mindset. You have to be able to recognize TIN Stoffel when it comes. And remember, TIN Stoffel's part of everyone's life from birth to death. No one can escape TIN Stoffel.
Yes.
If you recognize it, now you have more control. Now you get to choose whether you want that cost in your life or not. Make sense?
It does. And this has been just a really rich talk. I'm so appreciative. I think in closing, I would like to, when you're talking about budgeting or planning or anything, time is one of the main components in any of that, whether we spoke earlier about compounding interest. That's a time value tool. So when we are doing these things to set a budget, and when we're trying to prepare ourselves psychologically and put our philosophy together, something that we can live with and believe in, stand on, and move forward with, how do we break that up in terms of short-term goals, midterm goals, and long-term goals?
Great question, Taz. And it really comes down to, again, sitting down and creating that list of what is your philosophy. What is your vision for your financial life? You must start there and literally be detailed. Write it out. If a new car is in the horizon, write down the new car. Put a date next to it. Work towards that. That's really the best way that you can develop that really solid view, have an idea, put it on paper, put it on a calendar. Now it makes it real. And now you have something you hold yourself accountable to. It makes sense? So again, everyone has the idea of spending money. I don't know anyone who doesn't think about it. Rarely do I find anyone who will take the time to develop a philosophy and actually put it into action steps. Only those, and I hate to say that it's less than 5% of America that does that. They're the only ones that have success with their money. When we look into the money world of America, right now, 75% of America does not have $15,000 to their name. 3/4 of America doesn't have enough money. That's scary. That's only from a lack of knowledge. It's a lack of understanding. It's a lack of training. I mean, I work with a lot of folks that are working on minimum wages and still have the ability to save if you have that budget in place, right? So it really comes down to, what do you think about it? How do you feel about it? What are you willing to do about it? And that's the piece. What is one willing to do? What are you willing to do to better your situation, take control of your financial life, bring total wellness by marrying health and wellness and financial wellness, and now you have total wellness in your life. It doesn't happen on its own, Taz. It takes effort, it takes desire, it takes people taking action to bring this to them. No one's going to deliver it to you. No one's going to drop it on you. You actually have to bring it to yourself. And folks like myself are more than happy to assist those who are looking for that. And again, that's why I'm here. That's why I am the money professor. That's why I teach the topic, is that I want people to have the knowledge to be able to make better decisions, not guess, but make knowledgeable decisions. That way you get a much better result.
And I would just submit finally that it's important for someone to understand the difference between these two things. When you're thinking of wealth, or if you're thinking, I want to be a millionaire, the question I would ask myself, do I want to be a millionaire, or do I want to spend $1 million? Because that's two different psychologies, that's two different philosophies.
Totally.
One requires you to have the $1 million saved. Again, wealth being the things you don't see, what you don't buy.
Right.
One of them requires you to spend it. And once you spend it, even $1, you're no longer a millionaire.
That's right.
So just understanding what it is you want,
Right.
putting a plan together that uses the tools that will help you get to what it is you want,
Yep.
and being steadfast, being confident in your ability to stick to the plan.
Those who build the budget and actually follow it, they end up with what their dream is.
Yes.
Those who don't.
Hey, so you can't front on that. Chris, thank you so much for being on the
Taz,
Student of Wealth series.
it's always a pleasure. It's always a
Super
pleasure.
excited to have you here.
I hope we do it again and again, and
Yes.
I'm always happy to be here and share information and share knowledge, because again, through the sharing of knowledge, it creates confidence. Within that confidence, people now can be more comfortable, they're happier. And with a happier life, who doesn't want that, right?
Right.
I got it.
Joyful wife, joyful life. How can people learn more about you, Chris?
So on all your streaming services, Spotify and all those streaming services out there, go look for The Money Professor. The Money Professor. I have plenty of podcasts online. I have a weekly radio show I do on Saturday and Sunday, and you can find me on mynorthwest.com. Hit the Listen Live button and look for The Money Professor. 8 a.m. on Saturdays on the West Coast. This is Pacific time, so it's a little early out here for you guys, but noon on Sunday is perfect time. Dial in and listen to me talk about the truth and facts of money and how it works and how you can apply it to your daily life and then gain value from that. The actual results are measurable, and that's the cool part, Taz. When people actually utilize these things, you can actually see it. You have more money, and that's a measurable thing. And so again, it enhances the quality of people's lives.
Make sure you study to show yourself approved. If you need access to resources, please let me know. Contact me. I'll tell you more about the online training center where you can actually study, you know, the various different topics of financial literacy, get financial education so that you learn not only what it is, get some understanding of how to apply it, and then be able to be empowered to make wise choices so that you can reach your goal. A healthy systematic mindset can be developed, refined, and nurtured through education. Education is the process of receiving or giving systematic instruction. It's a type of developmental psychology, and it helps to create personal identity. Mindset shapes who and what we think we are. Proper identity formation aids proper problem solving. Proper problem solving and planning prevents poor performance. As a student of wealth, my short-term goal is to learn more and more about being a good steward over my finances every day. My midterm goal, I want to build wealth through businesses that I can work on or in as much as I want, whenever I want, with the very best people I want on my team. The long-term priority for my financials and lifestyle is to be in good health with continuous opportune income distributions sufficient to cover every reasonable thing I need and a lot of what I want. If you stick with me, I will share what I'm learning and put you in the audience of my mentors and other accomplished professionals that are doing way better than I am financially. Those are the type of people I study under. That is my system. That is my story, and I am sticking to it. I want to challenge all of you under the sound of my voice to take inventory of the financial philosophy, health wellness, and your financial wellness, and let both work together to create total wellness. My name is Aviela Aloha. I am a student of wealth. Until next time, aloha.